Worried by the narrow escape of his party, the All Progressive Congress APC, in retaining Ondo states and the broader implications of the pronouncements by the Supreme Court, particularly as it relates to the position of the national chairman of the APC, Mala Buni, President Muhammadu Buhari from faraway London had directed Vice President Yemi Osibanjo to take charge of the legal concerns and come up with a decision in the overall interest of the party. Osibanjo too wasted no time in summoning a meeting of all the lawyers in the cabinet to deliberate on what to do, as the congresses were just a day away, Saturday to be precise. At the meeting, competent sources said the consensus of opinion was that the party should pause the congresses slated for Saturday before weighing other options, but only Malami objected, arguing that the exercise could go ahead regardless. Those in attendance at the meeting, which held at the Vice President's office, were the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Abubakar Malami, Minister of Works and Housing Mr. Babatunde Fashola, Minister of Information and Culture Alhaji Lai Mohammed, Minister of State for Labour Mr. Festus Keyamo, and Professor Tahir Mama, a former Director General of the Nigerian Law School and legal advisor and member of the Caretaker and Extraordinary Convention Planning Committee of the APC. After what allegedly turned out a heated debate, everyone at the meeting, this day gathered, agreed that the first step to addressing the elephant in the room was to suspend the congresses, which unfortunately held last week. A majority of those in attendance this day was told shared some of the argument that followed the Supreme Court judgment on Ondo and had contended that it was only logical to minimize the damage the APC might suffer in the final analysis by first suspending the congresses and then fashion out other possible options. But Malami would have none of it. He disagreed with the submissions of others and insisted that the congresses could go ahead. The resolution reached was to suspend the congresses, a source privy to the meeting stated. While debate was still on, Osibanjo was said to have made effort to reach the president by phone to intimate him on the developments, but failed. Having reached the decision to pause the Congress, Osibanjo decided to call Governor Buni on the resolution to suspend the congresses scheduled for Saturday. But to his shock, Buni fluently rejected his directive, insisting, like Malami, that the congresses would go ahead as planned. Malami and Buni belonged to the CPC tendency of the APC. It was a bemused Osibanjo who watched helplessly as Buni refused to obey his directive to suspend the Congress. According to sources, Malami and Buni's hesitance to discard experts' opinions despite glaring danger might have been caused by some people identified as cabal in the presidency did not want to lose their current hold on the party, especially that they were believed to have had a choice presidential candidate in mind, of which a change in the course of the party could undo. The truth of the matter is that the APC is currently facing an existential threat as two major tendencies wrestle for control of the party. These tendencies were represented by the legal parties that merged to form the ruling party, the Congress for Progressive Change and the Action Congress of Nigeria (ACN). Indeed, there was said to be an understanding at inception that while the CPC, led by President Muhammadu Buhari, would control the government, how the party is run will be prerogative of the ACN, a party led by Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Unfortunately, the fear of what might likely be in 2023 has begun dawn on and forced the CPC tendency to not only renege on this understanding but also doing all within its reach to completely take over the party and dominate the other tendencies, especially the ACN. Therefore, while the PDP wing of the merger, led by the Minister of Transportation Rotimi Amechi, has since been relegated from exerting any form of control or accorded any sense of belonging, especially that these his other allies has since returned to their former party, the PDP. The CPC tendency has literally taken over the party now and is desperately working to consolidate its hold ahead of the 2023 general election. thus by going ahead with the congresses last weekend despite concerns about the legal implications portended for the party. It demonstrates once again that it is willing to take the risks, the existence of the party in pursuit of its narrow objective. The CPC tendency clearly seeks to plant his loyalists across the board and finally cut other tendencies to size, even when its equity to the major state controlled pre 2015 polls was the least when compared to the other legacy parties. However, shedding more light on the Supreme Court judgment in a position paper which appears in sync with Festus Kamaya's position on the raging crisis, a former national legal advisor of APC, Babatunde Ogala, stated, "I've read suggestions by my brother Silk Festus Keyamo San to the effect that the National Executive Committee neck of our party, as well as its Board of Trustees BOT, should take charge of the affairs of the party through a committee set up by either organ. This is a very wise proposition, except that NEC, alongside all other organs of the party, were purportedly dissolved at a meeting convened and presided over by Governor Malami. Sadly, the notice for the NEC meeting was issued by the same tainted leadership of the party. Therefore, it is my view that the meeting may not have been properly convened in the eyes of the law and its resolution may have been void ab initio. This gives a leeway for the NEC to resume its duty and convene meetings immediately where it will decide the future of the party. The Board of Trustees of the party was never and has still not been consulted till date. So in effect, the party does not have a board of trustees that could convene even a meeting of the board of trustees, talk more of convening a national convention or indeed any statutory meeting of the party. Meanwhile, the People's Democratic Party PDP said that world congresses conducted by the APC amounted to a nullity given the pronouncement of the Supreme Court, which invalidated the Buni-led national executive. The PDP therefore vilified Buni and other APC leaders for deceiving innocent Nigerians and cajoling them to participate in a needless exercise which ended in violent crisis and avoidable death when they knew it was all in futility. But the leadership of the APC, while dismissing the PDP as no interpreter of the law, has asked it to keep its baseless comments on APC leadership to itself, saying it was aimed at distracting attention from its depleting fortunes and ruthless leadership, which has led its members and leaders abandoning the party. According to a statement by the National Publicity Secretary of the opposition party, Mr. Kola Olugbodiyan, said, it was indeed callous that the leaders of the APC, despite knowing that any process conducted by the Buni-led National Executive, whose legal status, in the face of Section 183 of the 1999 Constitution and Article 17 of 4 of the APC Constitution, has been queried by the Supreme Court, could extort from their innocent followers and subject them to a fraudulent exercise, that it is a nullity. While Section 183 of the 1999 Constitution, as amended, bars a sitting governor from holding any other office while serving as state governor, Article 17 of 4 of the APC Constitution clearly states that no officer in any organ of the party shall hold executive position office in government concurrently, he said. The PDP explained that the implications was that with Buni as chairman, the APC has no valid national executive, and as such, any Congress or any other statutory process conducted by the APC under these circumstances remain a nullity. Our party therefore cancels those who participated in the ridiculous drama called APC World Congresses to know that they have been viciously scammed. They should not worsen their situation by allowing the deceptive APC leaders to further set them against one another in bloody clashes for a party that has technically gone defunct, the PDP said. But the National Secretary of the Caretaker and Extraordinary Convention Planning Committee, Senator John Akpanu-Dehehe, in a statement issued yesterday said, instead of being humbled by the defeat of the recent Supreme Court judgment on the Ondo governorship election, the PDP has turned itself to an interpreter of law. The People's Democratic Party PDP is an old, lonely, toothless, and hungry hyena wandering aimlessly in the jungle of political wilderness. Nigerians are fully aware of its antecedents and will never take it seriously no matter how much empty noise it makes. We note how arrogantly the PDP has become an interpreter of the laws of the nation by arrogant comments on the recent Supreme Court judgment which affirmed the election victory of the Ondo State Governor Rotimi Akeredolu-San and dismissed the PDP's case on the grounds that it was not competent, he said. Akpanu-Dehen noted that the PDP had reached the end of its political road and Nigerians will never trust it again with the governance of this country.